This episode of Tim Kreitz Adventures is brought to you by Midland Power Sports. Come by and see our huge inventory of motorcycles, ATVs, side-by-sides, and trailers. Visit us online at midlandpowersports.com.
Sweet Jesus Lord! Bikes!
I had a very pleasant surprise last week when my buddy Jason, who owns Midland Power Sports, texted me and asked me if I would like to ride a brand new Generation 3 Hayabusa and make a review video about it. I hadn't been on a Hayabusa in a very long time, and I happily accepted his invitation. Suzuki has received somewhat mixed reviews on the new Hayabusa thus far, the worst critics saying that at $18,599, the bike is too expensive, especially considering that it is outclassed performance-wise by other bikes in that price range. There may be an element of truth to that criticism, but considering everything Suzuki has done to modernize this venerable and sought-after platform, I feel confident that these bikes won't sit around and languish on showroom floors. Suzuki has revised the Hayabusa's 1340cc engine with a variety of updates aimed at delivering more usable power, improving efficiency, and complying with ever-tightening emissions regulations, especially in Europe. There's an assisted slipper clutch now too. And while the bike actually makes less top-end horsepower than the Generation 2 Hayabusa, it's still a land missile. Suzuki claims 190 crank horses and 110 foot-pounds of torque, selectable across 3 power modes. The lighting is redesigned and all LED, complementing the Hayabusa's modernized looks, while undoubtedly increasing visibility significantly in almost all riding conditions. The electronic bells and whistles you get with the Gen 3 Hayabusa are beyond ridiculous. In fact, it feels like this is where Suzuki concentrated most of its R&D effort. There's lean angle monitoring, linked ABS, multiple power modes, multi-sensor traction control, rollback prevention, engine braking control, bi-directional quick shift, cruise control, and active speed limiter, and the list literally goes on and on and on. It's as brilliant a piece of computer technology as it is a motorcycle. But if you know me, you know I don't care much about any of that stuff in the least. I'm old school when it comes to high-performance motorcycles, so I just put the bike in high power mode and went for a rip. I'm all about stick and rudder when it comes to motorcycles. This test ride was about how the bike feels and how it made me feel. I'm an everyday street motorcyclist who uses bikes as a primary mode of transportation, and these were my initial riding impressions. Okay, enough shooting video and ogling this thing. Let's ride it. This is the first time I've ridden a Hayabusa in about 15 years, 14 years, something like that. I've never ridden a Gen 2, I've only ridden a Gen 1, and obviously now this one as of right now at this moment. I can tell you straight up right off the bat that this feels different than a Gen 1 Hayabusa in a lot of different ways. The bars are closer to you, but it's a more compact riding position. This is not as plush and stretched out as the Gen 1 Hayabusa. There's no question about that. Your butt is higher up in the air. You're a little bit more crouched over. It's a little bit more ZX7R like. If you've ever ridden a ZX7R, I had one for a decade. The ergonomics are a little bit more like that, which I did not expect. Suzuki's, in particular in the hyperbike category, more especially the Hayabusa, are known for being pretty comfortable bikes, and I feel kind of stretched out. So it's a Suzuki, we've got to clutch it. Alright, that's nice. 0 miles on the odometer. 0 miles. Boy, it sounds nice, and she wants to go. Idling at about 1500 RPM. That seems a little high, but also the bike's a little cold. Which is an ironic thing to say because it's 103 degrees right now. It's very hot. All right, so, oh yeah, it's a much more crouched riding position than I was expecting. It's different than a Gen 1, but Suzuki has done so many things to this bike to modernize it. I think that redesigning the ergonomics is just part of that. It's just the way it goes. Let's get out into traffic. We're not gonna do any twisties or anything like that, mainly because there aren't any around here. This is West Texas, they're hard to find, but also because this bike is not known for being a twisties bike. This is a freaking rocket sled. Feels good. Man, these bars are low. They're closer in than on the old Hayabusas, on the Gen 1, which is great. But man, they are low, and you are, without question, in sort of a cramped position on this bike. I'm sure that's adjustable one way or another. Different rear sets. I'm sure there's a way to raise these bars up. Guys are invariably going to want to tour on this motorcycle. There's no question about that. So those options, if they're not available from Suzuki, will become available. I have no doubt about it. Oh, torque! Oh, torque! Oh, torque! All right, I got to take it easy. That is a cop right up in front of me. 2 miles on the odometer, and it's windy. Holy mackerel, it's windy. Flickable. It's a flickable motorcycle in its own way. For being as big as it is, this thing is something like, what, 275 kilograms, something like that? I mean, it's up there for a sport bike. These have always been heavy, though. Okay, we got to slow down here and get out of this wind. Number one, so you can hear me talk, but also because I want to feel what the bike feels like without a 30 mile an hour, 25 mile an hour south wind blowing into the side of it. The traction control on this bike is very advanced. It senses a variety of different parameters. Lean angle is just one. Wheel spin is one. Throttle position is one. And gear position is one. So I guess this guy's going right where I'm going. Whoa, okay. Oh, see how it made me laugh? That's why Hayabusas are cool. That feels good, man. That's an instant hit of endorphins. That is an instant endorphin rush. Okay, so and I'm into big torquey bikes. If you watch my channel, you know what I'm into. I've got a 1200 Bandit, I've got a ZRX 1200. I like big bore 4-cylinders, so I'm into it. But this thing is, I don't know, really a good articulation for the feeling that you get under acceleration on this bike. Part of it's the riding position, part of it is the shape and feel of the bike, part of it is the aerodynamics of this bike. This bike has the lowest and best drag coefficient of any open class sport bike. Probably any sport bike other than, I don't know, it might even be better than like the Panigale and those types of bikes. I would not be the least bit surprised. We're just gonna talk about the feel of this thing. I don't want to go through all of the electronics. The electronic stuff on this thing is one of the things about the bike that actually is a bit of a turn off. I know I'm old school, but I'll tell you guys right now that this thing has lift control. Okay, so it has wheelie control, it has traction control, it has uphill mode, which basically means that if you're stopped at an intersection with the bike facing up a hill, like at railroad tracks or something, the bike won't roll backwards. Now, yeah, that's kind of cool, but at a certain point, how much is too much? How much is too much? I mean, how much of the rider are we removing from these bikes? I think we're removing quite a lot, actually. It's not a bad thing, but you know, the more bells and whistles you have on a bike like this, that's more stuff that can break and that is expensive to fix. It's stuff that drives the price of this bike up. This bike is expensive. I wanted a 1999 Hayabusa so bad when they first came out. I mean, I was obsessed. with getting a Hayabusa. I was in my 20s. I bought the very first Motorcyclist magazine that featured the Hayabusa, where it was doing like 189. That dude probably thinks I'm crazy, and I am. That's a lot of acceleration. And like I said, I've ridden lots of bikes that accelerate really well before. It's something about the complete package of this. Suzuki's done an excellent job of keeping this Hayabusa. It's still at its core a Hayabusa. It harkens back in certain ways to that original Gen 1 Hayabusa that I lusted over, that I still have the magazine that I bought in 1999, dreaming of getting one. I never bought one because I was in my 20s, and it wasn't that I couldn't afford the bike. Back then, you could walk out of a dealership with a Hayabusa for about $9,500. That's not the case anymore. The MSRP on these things are much higher, and all those bells and whistles and electronics are part of it. Inflation is part of it. I know there are a lot of dynamics to it. It wasn't about the price back then, though. It was about the insurance. A guy in his 20s couldn't afford to insure a motorcycle that would do 190 miles an hour verified. Now, Suzuki claims, oh, I wish you guys could feel that. It's intoxicating. Dude, that is freaking intoxicating in every sense of the word. Suzuki claims 190 crank horsepower. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt it a bit. Okay, man, it feels good. The one thing for me, though, is the riding position. I'm 174 centimeters tall, and I'm cramped on it. So if you're taller than that, if you're over 6 foot, you're going to be cramped on this bike. I'm just almost cramped. I'm 5'9", just under 5 foot 9 inches. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. Like I said, I'm sure that the ride position can be customized in various... Oh, don't do it. Don't do it, lady. It's not my bike. 7 miles on this thing. Boy, and that's another thing, is that this thing begs to go. It's a typical Hayabusa, and it has the soul and character of a Hayabusa in that regard. There's no doubt about it. The bike begs you to go. The speed limit on this highway is 65 miles an hour, and the bike is laughing at you. It's begging you. It's egging you on. It wants to go 175 miles an hour or faster. Sweet Jesus Lord. Okay, that maniacal laughter right there, that's what makes guys spend big money on Hayabusas and open class sport bikes. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's wonderful. That's worth the weird riding position. That's worth the price. Woo! Jason sees this video, he's gonna kill me. But oh man, what a motorcycle! This is how Hayabusas get sold right here. The visceralness of the Hayabusa. I don't care if it's a big bike. I don't care if it's a heavy bike. If it's considered kind of an old man sport bike or whatever. 190 crank horsepower is 190 crank horsepower any way you slice it. Superior aerodynamics count for a lot, and that's what you get with a Hayabusa. In addition to all of the electronic bells and whistles that I'm neither here nor there about, my ZRX weighs about the same as this bike, and it has about 125 or 130 horsepower. So we're talking about a lot more horsepower, a lot more in the way of aerodynamics, a lot more in the way of everything as far as modern design goes. The suspension, I can't give you really a judgment on it. I can tell you it feels good, but you see the environment I'm riding in right now. I'm not pushing it into corners, I'm not doing switchbacks, and I'm not leaning it very far. But I'll tell you that, I mean, you're not going to buy a bike like a Hayabusa and they cheap out on the suspension. It's got good, fully adjustable suspension.
It's inverted in the front, monoshock in the back with some sort of a canister. I'm assuming it's some sort of a nitrogen canister. I could be wrong on that, but it feels great. I mean, dude, and it flicks. Well, you have to, I don't know, you kind of have to work. There's some wind I'm dealing with, but you kind of have to work to turn it. I'm counter steering very hard. Turning right, turning left, turning right, turning left. You have to muscle it. There's no doubt about that. You have to muscle this motorcycle to make it turn. Gosh, compared to my FZ07, this is like turning a bus. But it's still cool. Now, would I buy this motorcycle? Man, I don't know. It's expensive. I'm a cheap ass. I have a problem with bikes being really expensive. Motorcycles in general are supposed to be sort of the poor man's zen. They're supposed to be a way that you can affordably go fast and enjoy performance and experience the beauty and the spiritual side of riding a motorcycle. And, you know, should you spend $15, $18, $20, $30,000? I mean, I guess you can. It's your money. You know, I'm a capitalist, baby. Make your money the honest way and spend it however you like. That's how I feel about it. But would I do it? No. You know, I would rather do like I've got. I've got 5 motorcycles in my stable right now that are, you know, I probably spent about what this motorcycle costs on 5 motorcycles. I'd rather have 5 motorcycles. I'd rather have my Triumph Bonneville. Don't turn in front of me. Don't do it. I'd rather have my Triumph Bonneville and my FZ07 and my ZRX 1200R and my Bandit and my old school Suzuki Superbike. You know, I'd rather have that. Variety is the spice of life. Now, I'm not saying you would get tired riding this motorcycle, because I don't think you ever would. You would get tired of this riding position. I'll tell you that. You would have to do something about the riding position. But oh my gosh, this bike is manic. It is absolutely manic. And you know, I know it's not really the king of the open class bikes anymore. Suzuki didn't go wild redesigning it and trying to make it compete in that way. I think what they wanted to do is they wanted to do an updated, very technological version of the Hayabusa. You know, they wanted it to be true to its legacy and honor that. And I think they've done a really good job with that. Now, tank's narrower than the Gen 1, just a lot of things. I mean, it feels like the same bike, and it doesn't feel like the same bike. It's, you know, it's a bit of a difficult conversation to have in some ways. It's a Hayabusa, yes. Is it true to the character of the Hayabusa? Yes, it's true to the character of a Hayabusa. Does it look like a Hayabusa? Yes, it looks like a Hayabusa. But I'll tell you guys right now that the reason it looks so much like a Hayabusa still after all these years, even with the updates, the way it vents, and the way that they've redone everything body-wise, it's because they know that this aerodynamic design, this basic aerodynamic design works. They know that the coefficient of drag is phenomenal, and so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to make huge design changes. They stay true to the design principle. They stay true to the aerodynamics. They stay true to where the weight of the bike and the center of gravity falls. That's one thing that this does have in common with the Gen 1 Hayabusa, is that it feels like that from a center of gravity standpoint, and that forward, that real planted forward feel that the Hayabusas have always had. So, man, it's awesome. Everything about it looks fast. I mean, I'm not a fan of those exhausts, but they do look very, you know, you can tell that they worked that into the aerodynamics mathematics. Hell, even the H on the Hayabusa logo, on the English logo, looks fast. I noticed they redid this too. They've modernized the Hayabusa Japanese lettering, character rather. So, I don't know, man. I love it. I mean, honestly, it's not for me. It's just not for me. I'll show you what's for me. I mean, I love Suzukis. If you watch the channel, you know I love Suzukis. This is what I like. It's 110 horsepower. You know, it's not as manic as that. It doesn't have the acceleration of that, but it's still badass. And this is the way you ride on the street in my brain. This is the way I like to ride on the street. You got torque, you've got an upright riding position, nice tall bars, you got a big GSXR engine, and it's usable. It's very usable on the street, designed to be usable on the street, designed to be actually a good sport touring package if you want to do it that way. The Hayabusa ain't that. The Hayabusa is something else. The Hayabusa is its own thing. It's not a sport touring machine. It's not a track bike. It's not a touring bike. It's just this aberration. It's this weird thing that exists for some reason that people love, and I understand why they love it. And truth be told, if I were a richer man, if I were a man of more means, I would be tempted to have something like this just to have it, just because you pull up on it and everybody oohs and ahs over it. But that ain't me. Is it for you? It very well might be, and if you would like to buy it, you better move and get over here to Midland Power Sports, because I have a feeling it's going to be gone in another day or two. Over the weekend, this thing will probably sell. Call and talk to Jason at Midland Power Sports if you're interested in buying this Hayabusa. I promise I won't buy it. I've got enough motorcycles, and I've got motorcycles that go fast enough for me. But this thing is otherworldly. It's absolutely otherworldly, and it may be for you. It's for somebody. There's no doubt about that. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Tim Kreitz Adventures. Bye.
Bye!